basic message, and it's not going to be a long video. It's going to be relatively straightforward. At 3:30, we're going to have Laura Steiner on the show. I've always said that woman is a pit bull. Before bringing Steiner on the show, I want to make a quick dispatches from the left, as I call it. As you've noticed, I've removed my Bernie Sanders sign off the wall. That's no shade to Sanders per se, but it's more so to make a point that we've moved beyond the point of Bernie Sanders. That Sanders, at this point, I think it's perfectly clear in a decent argument can be made that he has betrayed the left. Now, I don't mean betrayal in the sense that he might have acted intentionally, but I have to be honest, just looking at the way the campaign was run, I can't even take it off the table because it's so foreign to the way that I would have run a campaign like this. A man screamed for a revolution and either didn't have the ability, the competence, the intention, or the energy level to press through in order to make the case for the actual revolution. Sanders never prosecuted his case. On multiple accounts, he never prosecuted his case. There's no way for you to run a campaign on rainbows and flowers when everyone else has knives and weapons and pitchforks. You have to run a campaign based on the rules of the game space to which you are entering in, and your ideology doesn't necessarily apply to the rules of that game space. If you have a candidate like Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is sucking up the black vote, and your speeches have not pierced the fact that he was sucking up the black vote, then someone should bend at your table and whisper in your ear, you need to somehow get the black vote from Joe Biden. You're also hemorrhaging the elderly vote, and most of these have and hinder or hinge on this notion of electability. Someone should have whispered in your ear or how to mitigate that. And mitigating that goes beyond more than just saying a speech. When Obama was dealing with Mitt Romney, Obama started attacking Romney on a very basic point that this guy is rich, this guy's out of touch, and Obama put a resonance for that. So anything else that came forward fit within the context that Obama started. That's how you do politics. He was doing that in order to create an image of Romney, shaping how the public viewed Romney. And he was investing funds into that. That wasn't something that he did on the fly after a month. It was something that had to be built up and cultivated over time as a political strategy. I'm making the point that your campaign never had anything like that. It never even came around to anything like that. By the time you got to the point of Iowa, by the time you got to the point of New Hampshire, you needed to have been coming up with a plan to stop Biden in South Carolina. A competent campaign would have done that. Joe Biden lying about civil rights. When Joe Biden was caught in the 80s, Joe Biden had to literally drop out of the race where he caught lying about civil rights, lying about his education. He ends up being part of the end of his class, and also plagiarizing speeches. But the fact that Joe Biden was caught in the 80s lying about civil rights, and he is still in 2020 going from church to church to church, lying in one blackface after another, and you don't say anything about it. What about all those blacks that support you? This guy's out there lying on that. Your campaign wouldn't touch it. And you cowered, even hitting Nina Turner on the knuckles when she brings up an article making the point that no, Joe Biden is not a friend of blacks if he's trying to cut Social Security and many of these African Americans are living on Social Security. Hit her on the knuckles. That's not how a campaign is run. We want, and when I say abandon or betray those on the left, Medicare for all, expansion of Social Security, getting rid and eliminating student debt, $15 an hour, minimum wage, and yeah, money out of politics. That's what I'm talking about. I'm being very specific when I say the left, and if you want to call it the new left because that's defined, fair enough. I'm just making the point that from the standpoint of this group of people who stand up and identify with me, which I think is millions, that have attached themselves to Sanders as being the avatar of their will in the political space, who screamed for a revolution, was there for that revolution, and wanted him to go out and do those things. And he couldn't do it. Yes, everybody was against him, but let's be very clear. He never prosecuted his case, making the argument that Joe Biden is effectively Al Gore, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, all of them lost. This guy will lose also. And making an argument attacking this notion of electability that allows you to hit 2 points that you're weak on. Civil rights, this guy is lying about that. And I'm telling you this from the standpoint of an African American, which I have been my entire life. Having somebody lie about the civil rights movement is a vile and nasty thing. And while some people would have stuck with Joe Biden, you don't need to get every African American. You just need to carve those African Americans out of Joe Biden's hide. And catching him with lying about something like that would do that and take away percentages. That's my only prognostication, but I could be wrong on that. But I tell you this, What he did do didn't work at spades, and there was no point in which he contrasted or challenged any of those items, preferring to only talk about policy, when policy arguments are not the thing that win or lose debates, even if you're right about policy. Sanders won the policy debate because that was the only debate he was trying to have. But again, these campaigns are not always entirely defined by policy. I don't take away all of the things that were against Sanders in this, so don't misunderstand me. But when I get to the point of saying he betrays the left, there is no other way I think you can define it, especially when I look at what is in the best interest of the left. I will keep this succinct because I want this video to be easily consumed. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal and Patreon. I appreciate all of you that support this channel through Patreon, and I thank you very much for your help. I didn't plan this video, but I do have something to communicate that has been bugging me and has been running into me, so I might as well get it out before I talk to Lauren. Bernie Sanders at this point is using his email list to get his supporters to send money to Democrats. That's a betrayal to me. Bernie Sanders at this point is shucking and driving and trying to get people, his supporters, to vote for Joe Biden. That, again, to me, is a betrayal. The reason why I call it a betrayal is especially from the standpoint of the new left. What is your objective? First question. Medicare for all. Healthcare. Basically, Medicare for all. Expansion of Social Security. Elimination of student debt. $15 an hour minimum wage. And yeah, also getting rid of money in politics. That's what we want. That's our objective. What are you willing to do to get that accomplished? And that's the question that's more interesting. If you are finding yourself in the context of a party structure, the best that you could do, the best that your imagination can conceive is basically what the party would allow you to conceive. It doesn't matter that AOC believes in Medicare for all or a Green New Deal. The people around her don't. That is something that is difficult to achieve in a party context. All of those bills that they put out, what the Republicans put out with, pennies were given to the public, with trillions given to the corporations. All of these Democrats lined up in order to back the bill. Why? Because the political pressure on them in the party structure forces and compels their behavior in a particular direction. If you want to get those policies accomplished, you can't do it in a party that is diametrically opposed to those parties. You've done the same thing that Bernie Sanders and his supporters are doing right now for the last 40 years. Oh, you got to vote for the Democrat, all blue no matter who. Missing the point that as you go from year to year, from election to election, that what you consider to be the pragmatic choice has just gotten worse and worse and worse and moved further and further to the right. Because the moment that you continuously say you must vote for that Democrat no matter what, you've removed all accountability from the process. There are no standards. There's no point in which you say, okay, I can't support that. Because based on the pragmatic choice, that person is least worse. I'm making the point that if you're arguing that I am for a guy who will build one concentration camp less than the other guy, in 20 years, you could have 20 additional concentration camps by both. Still one concentration camp less, but you've added 20 more concentration camps because year after year you've decided to quote unquote vote for the pragmatic choice. That was not in this narrow focus all that pragmatic at all, especially when you're looking at these over the context of time. I am making the point that the only pathway for the left is to do something different, to repudiate what you've done for 40 years by folding yourself into the Democratic Party. Consider yourself something separate and distinct. You don't have to consider yourself anything, if I'm being honest. Stand on this policy, on the issue of policy. What is your objective? I want these policies accomplished. Great. Who else wants these policies accomplished? The millions of people standing right there saying, yes, I want these policies accomplished. What are you willing to do to get it? Everything else is subordinate to the policies being accomplished. And having that particular point of view is not something you can have in the party structure. In fact, that point of view allows a certain degree of imagination and latitude in figuring out how to get your agenda accomplished. If you have 10 million people that no party, I don't care what it is, those things aren't real anyway. What do you want to get accomplished is real. Those are concrete items. If you stand beside me on this, well, you have tens of millions of people who say, yes, I agree with that. I don't care about the parties. These are the things that I want to accomplish in the world. These are the things that I want espoused in law. And having those people stand beside you like that gives you leverage. It gives you power. The moment that you fold yourself into the party structure, that power evaporates. Sanders never had leverage or power in this process because Sanders gave all the leverage away from day one. If Sanders would have used that mob, that 10 million, 15, 20 million people that he has beside him saying, you don't get their votes until you adopt Medicare for all, until you adopt elimination of student debt. You're not going to get everything you want because that person is never going to be Bernie Sanders. However, the fact that you won those policy arguments and you're willing to fold yourself into the Democratic Party with a person who would veto that, you will never get what you want like that. How do you expect to get anything from a policy agenda if you always are willing to fold yourself into a party that doesn't believe in that policy agenda? Your only objective, the only pathway for the left, is to pull themselves out of the party in millions and stand beside policy. That's not a party. Policy. This is what we're for. You toe our line or you don't. If you don't, you lose. And the moment that they come out after the elections crying, oh God, you made us lose, say yes, we did make you lose. You guys were willing to lose as opposed to give up policy concessions. Clearly, you didn't care about Trump that much. Now, that's where you stand on that. Your leverage is your credibility and being willing and able to make the other competition lose. You are not Democrats. Stop considering yourselves Democrats. Start considering yourselves as people who want policy things accomplished. And start organizing where you guys can function in mass, or all of us can function in mass, where we understand that this is a policy we would accept, this is a policy we won't. And make it clear to whoever is running that if you run against us, you will lose. It is counterintuitive, but if you think about it, it makes all the sense in the world. The African American vote, they always scream about, oh, we're getting ignored, oh, we're getting taken advantage of. Yes, because you vote 90%. Your vote is already in the bag, so they don't have to do anything to you for that. If that vote was hazy and they didn't think they would get that vote, you would see a lot more of these guys pandering to the black vote. The issue is become, and the politics in the United States is run backwards. How you interact with the various people is a competition between you and some other competing group in regards to what you want to get accomplished. The pressure, the leverage that you have on the system is your ability to influence the system. You do not have to be standing on the square to influence the square. Your ability to yank yourself out of the political position, especially in the context of a party where that party no longer has ability to be viable without your support, is political leverage. I hope you understand what I mean. What you've done over the past 40 years doesn't work. That's not the way politics works. Zelina Maxwell on MSNBC screaming about the black vote getting Joe Biden in so he has to give something back. That's not how politics works. Politics works on leverage and influence. And the leverage and the influence that you have is that millions of you believe the same things I believe and can yank yourself out the political system and stand in the thing of solidarity. Joe Biden is going to lose anyway. Get something out of the fact that Joe Biden is going to lose. And what you will get out of it is credibility. So the next time around, because again, elections are not 4-year items where they just stop. They're things that go on over the course of time. You, as individuals that believe in a particular policy, are not associated with either one of these policies or parties, because neither one of these parties believe in the things that you believe. Stand on that, and stand on that in a way that allows you to have political force in this situation of your movements, one way or the other, either given a win or loss. That's a power position. At some point, that has to come together and organize into something that has some sort of brain center and can actually communicate and interact with each other. But at the very least, from the beginning, all of us, whether we're connected or not, needs to take that particular position from the standpoint of the left, that this is what we want. If we don't get this, you will lose. And stop there. It's a start. And it's a start that needs to take place. It is the start that no Democrat would ever say. It's the start that Bernie Sanders would never say. AOC, none of these people would ever say. But if you really want to get your stuff accomplished, and you believe everything else is subordinate to getting your stuff accomplished, that can't be done in the party. That is done with millions of people being unified in solidarity from the standpoint of no. We give you a no. We don't like what you've been doing up there. We are no longer going to participate in that. If the Democratic Party loses, they lose on their own merits. That's the guy you point at. Let the guy win based on what he wants to run with. And stand there. Stop taking the weak position of taking blame Start taking the position of taking acceptance that yes, we do have that much political influence. Try us. That is the only path for the left to go if it really wants to get anything accomplished. Anything else is going to be marginal and token. I'll leave it here. Like, share, subscribe. Hey Jay, are you hyped by the Jesse Ventura or May? The Jesse Ventura thing is interesting. I need to see if he's going to run first. Somebody was telling me that there's stuff in Jesse's past, so I got to see whatever is lurking in his corner. But we'll see. I mean, it's an interesting choice to shake up the political space. So yeah, I do like the fact that he's in the race. Like, share, subscribe.